town of Winsford, Massachusetts, nestled amidst ancient woods and shadowed hills, was a place where time seemed to linger, where whispers carried on the wind held more weight than spoken words. It was here, in this deceptively serene setting, that the lives of 4 young girls, Hallie, Katie Jensen, Chloe, and Wren, became intertwined with an ancient, malevolent entity that lurked in the digital darkness and the twisted branches of the surrounding woods, the Slender Man. It began with a secret, the kind whispered among teenage boys, a clandestine gathering shrouded in mystery. One evening, Hallie, Katie, Chloe, and Wren, emboldened by curiosity and a hint of youthful rebellion, confronted a group of boys to uncover their plans. They were met with a wall of silence, a closed circle guarding an unspoken ritual. The boys' cryptic words hinted at something dark, something that resonated with an unsettling tremor deep within the girls' subconscious. The girls, restless and intrigued, convened for a sleepover at Katie's house. The basement, with its familiar scent of concrete and dust, became their conspiratorial chamber. During their hushed conversations, the boys' evasiveness was cast aside, and the girls' discussion turned to the disturbing rumors of a being known only as Slender Man. They had seen him in flickering, grainy videos online, and heard the hushed warnings spoken in fearful undertones. He was described as a tall, impossibly slender figure, a horrifying specter with a blank, featureless face, who primarily preyed upon innocent children, seducing them with a sinister allure before abducting them into an unknown realm. The idea was chilling. It was unsettling. Yet, the idea had taken root in their minds. Driven by a morbid curiosity that belied their fear, the girls delved deeper, venturing into the shadowy corners of the internet, searching for a way to understand this terrifying entity. They stumbled upon a website, a gateway to the darkest recesses of the online world, containing a link to a video that purportedly revealed how to make contact with the Slender Man. They watched, captivated and terrified, as the video demonstrated the steps one might take to reach out into the abyss and summon the creature. It was as if they had opened a door to a realm where the laws of nature were warped and reason held no sway. The seed of dread had been planted, and it began to grow within each of their minds. The following week, during a class field trip to the historic Clifton Cemetery, a sense of unease descended upon Katie. The ancient gravestones and gnarled trees seemed to emanate an unsettling presence, and she felt a gaze upon her that did not belong to this world. It was the first time, but she wouldn't know how many times, the Slender Man began his insidious influence on her life. The cemetery was old, each gravestone telling a silent story. Katie wandered away from the group, drawn deeper into the maze of trees. She was not entirely alone, but those that accompanied her were not flesh and blood. Katie became haunted, her mind a canvas upon which the Slender Man began to paint his horrific portrait. She was a moth drawn to a deadly flame. Time seemed to distort as her senses became muddled. She was enveloped by a feeling of cold and isolation. She thought she had only wandered away for a moment, but the group had already begun moving, and she had fallen far behind. She ran to catch up to them, but her foot caught and she fell. When she looked up, the group was gone. Or rather, they were not there. In their place stood tall, pale figures, with limbs like dry branches. They turned to her, and she could feel herself be absorbed by their stare, by their lack of visible features and eyes. Katie turned and tried to run, but she kept stumbling. The world was warped around her, no longer familiar, and then everything went silent. Katie Jensen disappeared without a trace. The class was forced to remain at the cemetery for hours, under the pall of fear and confusion, until the authorities arrived to begin their investigation. They scoured the area, interviewed students and teachers, yet the forest remained silent, guarding its secrets jealously. Katie had vanished, swallowed by an unseen force. Hallie, Chloe, and Wren refused to accept the police's conclusion, which suggested that Katie had run away. They knew, in the depths of their hearts, that something far more sinister was at play. They decided to take matters into their own hands, embarking on a perilous quest to find their missing friend. Their search led them to Katie's home, a place where shadows seemed to cling to the walls and a sense of neglect hung heavy in the air. She had been living alone with her alcoholic father, a man consumed by his own demons and oblivious to the darkness that was encroaching upon his daughter. They searched her room and soon recovered Katie's laptop, a digital breadcrumb trail leading them further into the terrifying labyrinth of the Slender Man's influence. On Katie's laptop, They found evidence of her descent into the world of the occult. She had become obsessed with Slender Man sightings and videos, her mind captivated by the entity's sinister aura. They found messages she had sent to another individual known by the online handle Alicat93, Allison Riley. These messages revealed Katie's desperate desire to escape her miserable life by reaching out to the Slender Man, hoping that he would spirit her away from her pain and isolation. She thought she could control the beast, that the videos and stories were all just a work of fiction. But she was a fool. The Slender Man never leaves a victim whole. He takes a part of each one he chooses. Through their online contact, Allison explained the true nature of the Slender Man's influence. She claimed that he infects people's minds like a virus, slowly corrupting their thoughts and twisting their perceptions. He drives them completely insane, or worse, he snatches them away to an unknown fate. Allison warned that the only way to retrieve Katie from his clutches was to unveil themselves. The girls understood this to mean making a sacrifice, surrendering something deeply personal to the creature. This act was not meant as a peace offering, but rather as a way to attract his attention to the new victim. Each girl brought their most treasured possession. Wren offered a piece of pottery she had made at age 5, a tangible reminder of innocence and creativity. Chloe presented a photograph of her and her father, a bittersweet memory of love and loss from before his passing. Hallie hesitated, then reluctantly gave up her younger sister, Lizzie's, blanket, woven by their grandmother upon her birth. It was a symbol of comfort and security, and giving it up sent shivers down her spine. She had known Lizzie would be upset, but she never imagined what kind of torment would befall her sister. Wren, having delved deeper into Slender Man mythology, warned Hallie and Chloe against looking directly at the creature's face. She instructed them to don blindfolds and warned them not to open their eyes to even hear him, for fear of death or madness. They were standing on the edge of madness, and one wrong step would be fatal. The ritual began, the air thick with tension and fear. They reached into the abyss. Chloe, however, was unable to contain her terror and panicked, fleeing the ritual. Her blindfold slipped, and she caught a glimpse of the Slender Man, his featureless face burning an indelible image into her mind. It was as if she had gazed upon the face of oblivion itself, a darkness that reached deep into her soul. The sight shattered her sanity. The world became distorted. Her mind raced, filled with terrifying images. She couldn't breathe, she couldn't think. It was as if a part of her soul had been stolen. Sometime later, the Slender Man entered Chloe's house, his presence a chilling violation of the sanctity of her home. He entered her mind, twisting her thoughts and shattering her sanity. She fell deeper and deeper into madness, her once vibrant personality replaced by a vacant, hollow stare. She had become a shell of her former self, a victim of the Slender Man's insidious influence. Chloe could only scream and wail, but no sound came out of her throat. She had been taken. Wren, who was already shaken by what she witnessed at the ritual and by Chloe's madness, began to experience frightening visions and nightmares. Her sleep was invaded by dark figures and twisted landscapes. Driven by desperation, she began to research the creature in the local library, hoping to find a way to stop him. She dove into the world of folklore and urban legends, searching for any clue that might help them against this terror. But her efforts proved to be futile, as she was once again attacked by the entity during one of her research trips. The books began to rearrange themselves. Pages were ripped out from nowhere and thrown on the floor and on the bookshelves, and she could hear the whisper of the trees outside, even as she was inside the building. She knew it was him. She had to escape. She began running, but his influence had spread across the town. He was everywhere. She managed to get out and run home, but she knew he would come for her soon. Hallie, desperately trying to cope with the escalating horror, attempted to find solace in her relationship with her boyfriend Tom. She spent the night at his house, seeking temporary relief from the madness that had engulfed her life. However, this attempt at normality only served to further enrage Wren, who chastised Hallie for abandoning their quest for Katie. She knew that if they did not stay focused, the Slender Man would win. They were all in danger. She tried to convince Hallie of the importance of their mission, but fear was beginning to divide them. Meanwhile, back at home, Lizzie suffered a major panic attack and had to be hospitalized and sedated. Lizzie had been seeing the figure even after the offering ritual, and the more afraid she grew, the worse it became. He was in her room every night, just watching, waiting. Hallie, frustrated and desperate, began to scour her computer and made a shocking discovery. She realized that Wren and Lizzie had been communicating secretly, and that Lizzie, drawn by the same morbid curiosity, had aided Wren in a previous attempt to contact the Slender Man. The revelation that her sister had also become entangled in this nightmare added another layer of complexity to the unfolding tragedy. It also made the situation so much worse, for Hallie was no longer fighting for just her friends. She was now fighting for her sister, the one person she cared most about. The thought of something happening to her was a wound that would never heal. Driven by a mixture of anger and fear, Hallie confronted Wren at her home. She discovered a room filled with information about Slender Man, a chilling testament to Wren's desperate search for answers. In her notes, Hallie found the name of Allison Riley, the same Alicat 93 that Katie had been messaging. Allison had been a psychiatric patient, claiming that the Slender Man had abducted 9 of her peers. This confirmed to Hallie that Katie had not been an isolated case, and that they were in the midst of something far bigger and far more sinister. As she saw the depth of Wren's obsession with the Slender Man, she knew she had to stop her, even if it meant her own life. She would not let her friends and family suffer for this. Wren, overwhelmed by guilt and fear, broke down and confessed that Lizzie had approached her, expressing a terrifying fascination with the Slender Man. She had asked Wren to take her to the woods, where she offered her teddy bear to the entity. Wren then admitted the horrifying truth, that the sacrifices they had made were insufficient. The Slender Man would not be appeased until he had claimed them all, body and soul. The gifts were a lure, a promise of a new victim. They had thought they were acting to save one of their own, but in doing so, they had made themselves even more exposed. As Wren finished her confession, the glass window shattered violently, and the Slender Man appeared, his long, slender form silhouetted against the night sky. His tentacles, like grotesque branches, snaked out, seizing Wren and pulling her into the darkness. They fused into one, and she was taken, never to return again. Hallie stood there, frozen in fear and despair. Her friends had all been taken, and the only way to save her sister was to make herself the next sacrifice. Driven by a combination of rage and desperation, she resolved to confront the Slender Man, giving herself up to save Lizzie. There was no other choice. She could not let him hurt her sister, and she would stop at nothing to make it so. Hallie ventured into the woods alone, the trees now looming like skeletal figures under the moonlight. She felt him, his presence an oppressive weight upon her soul, as she walked deeper into his domain. She found him, standing in the clearing, towering over her, his featureless face a mask of ancient horror. She pleaded with him, begging him to take her instead, to leave Lizzie alone. She knew there was no logic or bargaining with this creature, but the words just came out of her mouth, carried by her terror. The Slender Man obliged, moving to seize her, his long appendages wrapping around her. She attempted to escape, but her efforts were futile. She knew it was useless, but her body reacted on pure instinct. He was everywhere. He used his tentacles to traverse the forest like a giant spider, ensnaring her in his web. She tried to scream, she tried to fight, but he was too powerful, too ancient to be opposed. In the final moments, Hallie could feel the creature's form merging with her own. She felt herself being pulled and fused into one of the trees. They were one, twisted and misshapen, a permanent reminder of the horror she had endured. She became a part of his domain, one of his permanent captives, another offering to his insatiable hunger. He was satisfied now, he had taken them all. He had achieved his goal, or so he thought. Lizzie, still recovering in the hospital, awoke screaming for her sister. In the depths of her delirium, she had seen the horror unfold, the merging of her sister with the trees. Lizzie felt the loss of her sister, the pain of their separation, a wound that would never heal. But she eventually made a full recovery, though scarred by the events that had transpired. She was alive, but she knew that this was a hollow victory, a life marked with loss and horror. Lizzie would grow old, her life tinged with the darkness that took her sister and her friends. She knew she had seen the truth of the world, that the monsters were real, and that humanity was nothing but pawns in their ancient games. She spent her days remembering the girls, their laughter and their joys, but that was all behind her now. The Slender Man would forever remain a constant nightmare, a reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that lurks just beneath the surface of reality.